بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We welcome all of you to another gathering of the Black Imams Roundtable. I'm not your host, the Imam of the Boom Bap. I am Amin Muhammad, your lowly servant. But inshallah, today you'll get the blessing of hearing from the great Imam of the Boom Bap, Imam Faheem Lee. In fact, now that I opened up, let me allow the great Imam to take the lead on this. Barakallahu bikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa min tabi'ahum bi ihsani ila yawm ad-din wa ba'd. I'd like to welcome you all to tonight's segment of the Black Imams Roundtable. Thank you for your time and tuning in, inshallah. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us barakah in this gathering and that He will accept our efforts and make it one of immense benefit. Amin. All right, don't forget your cover fee. Let's start right off from the from the rip. You know what I mean? We request at least a minimum of $10. You know, if you want to do, increase your good deeds, you're the kind of, we deal with the kind of people that are 10 to 1. So you should pay for like 10 people. That's how we do it. You donate for 10 people on behalf of 10 people, inshallah, and that's how we build it. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to support what we needed. I mean, all right, tonight's topic that we've been given is about Black movements and learning from the past. And this is a very important topic because for many of us, a lot of us rather, I would venture to say that many of us came into Islam by way of some type of movement. And we have to go back and analyze and reflect and observe, what was the impact of those movements and what they did to us, and then when you look at the particular movements, a lot of them, they have similar traits, similar features, for instance, when the Nation of Islam movement came, in the early 30s, and they had a charismatic leader, and then on Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, he became like the face of it. He became a personality, and he preached the doctrine, and the doctrine wasn't really the traditional Islam, but just like with any movement, they have some elements of truth. Go ahead.
Hey, Imam, if you can log in and log back out, you're cutting up. Maybe that might help it. Or go adjust your microphone inside.
It might be my laptop, actually. Let me let Imam Amin, can Imam Naeem take over and I have to switch to my phone, or you wait a couple minutes, a pause for the calls for station identification.
All right, Imam Naeem, Imam Faheem is going to adjust his microphone because it's very choppy. Can't hear him.
No, we ain't trying to hear that, man. Assalamu alaikum. By the way, I was on time. I was here before both of y'all.
Not facts.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa afdalu salatu wa atamu tasneem ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wa radiyallahu ta'ala ana sadati tabi'een wa ulama al-amalin wa a'immatul arbat mujtahideen wa muqallidihim ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. For my opening comments, number one, I believe this is an extremely important topic because, you're not going to know where you're going, or you're not going to know where you're going, or even if you're using the correct route to get there, unless you know where you came from. And so, our history is extremely important. And I would just like to make, and because also a lot of our history in this country, most of us actually don't even know it. Like there were a lot, there have been many movements and groups of Muslims that a lot of us have never even heard of, and they're not really that old. You know, I don't know if you want to let Imam Faheem get back in.
Are you going? You clear, Imam Faheem?
Yeah, but keep going. Keep going,
You
man.
got it. Go ahead. You got it.
Who got it? Me? Nah, I'm closing the show today, Otis. You always want to close the show, man.
Ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis.
Okay. All right. I'll go. Mashallah. All right. I missed part of what Imam Naeem was talking about, but I'm pretty sure it was starting to get real profound, and I hope I'm not not overlapping. But I was saying some of the movements that we've experienced in this country, all of them have some elements of the truth, because if they didn't, we wouldn't have been attracted to them. I was talking about the Nation of Islam, and when you see the movements that, even though they have some elements of the truth, they have some things that they were just blatantly, hiding. Like, for instance, the Nation of Islam, they had charismatic leaders. They had an economic program. They took people off the streets, cleaned them up, gave them a program, gave them something to do. But, they taught a wicked doctrine, and they taught, they kept people away from the Quran. They kept people away from the Quran. And then I had a little experience with that movement. I never joined it, but in Camden we had some temples. We had one temple here, and they had in the 70s, 80s, they were kind of present. Then you have other movements that they seemingly had knowledge, but there was some type of problem with the personality, with some morality. And we talk about Imam Amin's people. He don't like it, but with the Ansar community, I remember my engagement with them is that you used to see these people selling books. I mean, reading Arabic, reciting Quran, wearing white. And I remember these guys always looked like they were like angelic, man, holy. They used to always wear white, and that attracted me, And then they would talk about the Quran and talk about the Sunnah, but then upon deeper investigation, it was something else, And then I never really experienced the Darul Islam movement or the the Fuqara Jamaat, but I met some brothers from there, and after I learned about it somewhat, these guys were really, they knew some Sunnah, they knew Quran, they knew some practices, and these guys were like, militant, and they were like, but they were aggressive, but they had some brotherhood. And then, my experience was with the Salafi Wahhabi movement, and this the point I wanted to make is that this movement was basically, and I think this is why a lot of people are having a hard time really making a distinction between that movement and Sunni Islam, because out of all of those prior movements, this one seemed like it was talking about true Islam, because now you have people quoting the Quran, you have people quoting Hadith, people saying they referring to the scholars, giving you books, speaking Arabic, having the outward appearance of the Sunnah, all of these things. But under the surface, it was the same old kind of cult tactics, dynamic personalities, cherry picking information, selecting knowledge, marginalizing other knowledge, and then it turned into a whole nother movement. And I think, our experience overall as, Black people in America, that it's unfortunate that we've been exposed to all of these movements, but at the same time, it shows our remarkable resilience as a people, man, And now Sheikh Abdul Karim Yahya said something last night in his talk that I thought was really good. He said that I think he said he was talking to Sheikh Nur Amin Keller, and he said that our people have a natural propensity for spirituality, And if you think about it, this is why sometimes us as a people, even though we do, collectively we do some wicked things and some strange things, we never do things that are like dastardly or like just inherently evil. You know what I mean? Like we have a limit, you know, because you read about other people, you be like, man, how could somebody do something like that? You know, like, and we, you know, as resilient and as tough as we are, or the parents of being tough, we're some soft people, you know, we're sometimes gullible, sometimes naive, and sometimes just so forgiving. You know what I mean? The other people, you know, they wouldn't even go for the stuff that we would go for. And I think part of it is you know, our exposure to these different movements, and we've had to adapt. And it in a sense has led us to, you know, where we are now for those who are following Sunni Islam. But then one of the drawbacks of being exposed to those movements in America is that sometimes we carry some of those remnants of those movements, you know, and it may be unbeknownst to us at times, you know. Sometimes we have a little militancy when we should have softness. Sometimes we are hard and stringent when we should be soft. And other times where, you know, when we should be hard, we should be militant, we should be economic, you know, we become soft, you know. So it's like a mixture. But alhamdulillah, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took us through all those stages to bring us to, you know, Sunni Islam. And, you know, we just have to really thank Allah and really look back and just, you know, have mercy on people, because a lot of, you know, there are some people who aren't able to escape from some of these movements. Some people can't see clear. And, you know, some people, I remember Sheikh Noor said it one time. He said, you know, some of these people, it's written for them to be part of these movements. You know, it's written for them to be part of these movements because they're not going to get it, you know. So, but, you know, when we observe the movements, you know, we have to look at some of the traits of the movements and some of the similarities that they all have, you know, dynamic speakers, you know, dynamic personalities, something that's, you know, seemingly that nobody ever said or did before, and, you know, seeming to have solutions. But at the other end of the spectrum is that they hide true knowledge, you know, and that's just something that we need to look into when we engage people that are potentially part of movements, you know, because unfortunately there's still, you know, I caught the end part of Imam Naeem's talk. He was saying, like, there are a lot of movements that we may not even be aware of. Like, I remember one time when I first became Muslim, it was this brother was telling me about the number 19, you know, and he was saying, like, the letters of the Basmala, there's 19 letters, and then he said it was like 9 holes in your body and something, and some weird stuff, man. I didn't know what to think, but I'm thinking like he knew what he was talking about because he was my elder. But then upon further investigation, you know, that was a whole deviant movement with the Rashid Khalifa, and he was in California, you know, and all these kind of, you know, just dangerous things, you know. And this is the result of, you know, if we don't know and we don't know that we don't know, people will take advantage of it. So, you know, we at a point now as we can look back historically and see some of those movements and how they've impacted us, you know, just to be aware, make sure that we know what we're supposed to know, and teach it and propagate it, inshallah ta'ala. All right, so that's all I got for right now. Next up is Imam Naeem. Oh, go ahead. You next?
I don't know, Imam Naeem.
I'm going to be short, inshallah. You know, alhamdulillah, I already opened up. Is Issa Bey in the building? You know? The reason why I asked that, because I know that he's an electrician and he can identify what I'm about to say. You know, when I first, you know, I grew up doing electrical work with my father, so I knew it. But when I went to school for it, you know, one of the first things the teacher taught in the beginning of the class is that electricity always wants to find its way back to its source. And, you know, even amongst the, you know, scientists and stuff, you know, there's ikhtilaf. Like they say that electricity, or like lightning more specifically, they say some of them say, yes, that lightning comes from the sky the way it looks. And some of them say, no, actually it's coming from the ground going to the sky. But in any case, they say that the electricity always wants to find ground. It wants to go back to where it came from, right? And so when I look at us as Muslims, I look at it the same way. I look at us as African American Muslims trying to find our way back to where we came from. And I say that because when you look at Islam historically in this hemisphere, we know with documented proof not only that there were Black or African Muslims that came here by means of the slave trade, but we also know that there were Black or African Muslims that came here well before the slave trade. And these things are documented not only by the Europeans who came here to pillage, like Christopher Columbus, who records seeing, African-style masjids on top of hills in Cuba. But we know when we talk about, for example, Mansa Musa, when he was making his famous Hajj and he went to Egypt and he was narrating how he got so rich and powerful and where he inherited all of these things from. He said that his predecessor, Abu Bakr, and this is the Malian Empire, the Malian Khilafate, he had a desire to know what was on the other side of the big ocean. And so he sent 400 ships out and they left and one ship came back, and he described them reaching a part in the ocean where he described it like a violent river. And every time a ship would go into it, he wouldn't see it anymore. Like it would disappear. And scholars have some idea where this location may or may not be. But in any case, that narrator said he was able to turn his ship around and go back to West Africa. And that's obviously how we narrated the story. And then Amir Abu Bakr was like, I ain't satisfied with that. So he equipped 2,000 ships. 2,000 ships. And they went and never came back. And that's how Mansa Musa got his authority. And you fast forward some years later, when explorers went there, not only did they see African Muslims, not only did they see Masjid, but even they found gold. And the type of alloy that's used in the gold coins that they found there was the exact same mixture that they used from West Africa, from the Malian people. So I'm saying all that to say that we know that we've been here before slavery, during slavery, and after slavery, right? And so when I look at all of these, Islamic movements, pseudo-Islamic movements, in my mind, I look at them as different manifestations of trying to get back to where we came from, or to try to gain back what was taken from us by means of the so-called American experience. And so this is the way I look at it. And really anything that I say hereafter will be based upon, that premise. Like I said, I'm short. That's all I have to say. We don't want you dozing off, Imam Amin, because we be watching you at night doze off at these night.
What is this false accusation of me dozing off? I'm not dozing off. I'm deeply reflecting on the powerful impact of your speech. No, Bismillah. Walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. I really, sometimes when I think about this subject, I get angry, honestly. I know it's necessary conversation, but I hate talking about it. Because when I look at our communities today, I don't think we've changed much. I think we're in a constant state of trying to find our way back to the source, as you mentioned, or back to our origin when we had Islam. And I think the world has played a role in Black folks never finding it. And to me, that's hurtful. So some people may like, man, that's kind of hard. But the more you learn, sometimes you discover things and you realize things that, they used to say something in the nation, make it plain, Black man. And the Ansars, they used to have this saying, truth is truth, you know. And we got today facts, right? We got all this stuff going on, right? And if I question all of us in our Islam, really critical questioning, we'll realize that most of us, even our learned people, still don't know Islam. It's sad, and it's not their fault. I had a talk yesterday, and we were talking about, I want to give you something, and I'm going to leave names out, so you got to be perceptive and figure out and put the puzzle together without me mentioning names, because I promise I won't mention names. But names make things real clear. But I ain't going to mention names, right? I'm going to behave myself, right? But if we take, and we're not going to mention names, so I got to do this without mentioning names. You can do it in your mind. If you tell me 5 African-American leaders, imams, sheikhs that we respect, right? If you name 5, don't name none, please. You can name it in your mind, right? Just think about it. And if you got 5, you name, are those 5 together in doctrine, practice, and spirituality? So and why I'm asking that? Because if we take the hadith of Jibril, alayhi salam, he basically talks about al-Islam, al-Iman, and al-Ihsan. Al-Islam, practice, al-Iman, doctrine, al-Ihsan, spirituality, right? Now you think about all the 5 imams or sheikhs or scholars, whatever you want to call them, in our community, and then answer that question honestly. If you pick the 5, I guarantee you the 5 are all over the place. They don't share in no organized structure, which tells you that Islam has not been passed on in our community, among our people, in our nation, and we must look at ourselves as a nation. It hasn't been passed on generationally with a structure and an order, and that's a crime, right? That in itself, to me, is a crime in and of itself. And at the rate we're going, the next generation are going to be treated the same way. You're going to have our children who don't have no cohesive message in Islam to join together on. And that's scary. So I'm mentioning that to say, when I reflect on history, this has been a constant within our nation. Whereas if you talk about other nations, there is differences, but each place has some kind of organized system basically that you can refer to. So for instance, if you went to Pakistan or India or Bangladesh or Morocco or Egypt or Syria or Yemen or Saudi Arabia or Africa, Senegal, Nigeria, Gambia, Mauritania, Libya, go to all these places and you will have a basic structure, even though there may be people who go different ways, but there is a basic structure of religious practice that is well known in those lands, right? Even those who deviate from that traditional practice realize that that's the practice of my country, right? Of my nation of people. This is what they do. So you can automatically know there's going to be this type of belief that's standard, this type of practice that's standard, this type of spiritual activity that's standard. Even if there are departures, there is a sort of cohesive ideology or practice to build on. And that is like a national pride, right? But we've always been told, number one, that we shouldn't have national pride. Or forget the word pride, because that's a play on words if you want. Dignity as a people. Everyone has some honor and dignity in their nation. That's just natural. And what we failed to realize as African Americans, Black Americans, whatever you want, title you want to use, we are a nation of ourselves. We're not Americans, even though some of us like to think we're Americans. We're not. We're not accepted as Americans. We are a product of American exploitation. But we wouldn't be fighting still for rights today if we were Americans. Like basic rights, equality, fair integration within the society. We're still fighting for those things. And, even if some of us got a portion of it, it don't take long for them to learn that we're not Americans in the sense that this is our land that we are respected of having. We're claiming a portion of it. It's a big difference. But we do realize as a people, we are a separate entity. And I think when we build upon that, the previous organizations, pseudo-Islamic groups, what they may call the Nation, More Science Temple, Ansars, all these different people who affiliated with Islam, they all had one thing in common. They understood that we are a nation. They all understood that part, that the African American, the Black American, the Negro, whatever you want to call it, was a nation inside of a nation. And they treated each other like that. And that was, despite their misunderstanding of the deen as a whole, this was a cause of allowing them not to be totally exploited, right? Not to be totally exploited. And I think we, under Sunni Islam, and we still got to define that among ourselves, right? We've been taught that it's almost unlawful to be Black. No one said it, but all of the indications told us you can't be a Black guy. And if you look at all of us, when we embraced Islam according to the Sunnah, you would find every one of us left our Blackness and started to develop cultures from other places around the world and trying to identify our Islam, right? So when I look at all these things, I'm putting my frame to what I want to talk about in relation to other movements. There are basically 8 points that I think we can extract from those previous movements in Islam in America. The first and most important is cohesiveness and unity among Black people. That is one of the most important things that we need to regain. The idea that we always think of the whole and the whole never thinks of us. This is a mistake. I honestly believe from the bottom of my heart, and that's why I say here's the anger. We always will give all of ourselves to others, but others won't even give a portion of themselves to us. And this, it will only change when we realize that we have to do certain things for ourselves. And that becomes, that doesn't mean exclude others. That doesn't mean don't relate to others. But no one else can rule us. We got to have that kind of mindset, because everyone is looking to rule black people and use them for their own objectives. And it has never failed. And if we talk about in Sunni Islam and we look at movements, you'll see that is always the case. And the sign of that is that you've never had real successive black leadership that is defined and established. And that always happens because of others injecting their thoughts in the stream of African-American or black movements all the time. So therefore they become, not genuine because Master said so. Not because they're not genuine in and of themselves. Master was the one, and when I say master, that's sarcastic. That is a pun intended, right? Master said, "You not right. You don't know enough." And Master got to teach you. And Master's only going to teach you enough to serve him. And that still happens today. You assign people that are saying, "I'm on the haq," and their always attack is against their own people. And the people who taught them that never let them be in charge. Think about it. And you could go across the board. I'm not talking about one group. Go across the board, whether they were pseudo movements that we consider Sunni, even Ahl Sunnah movements within Sunni Islam that we believe have the right doctrine, but you still find that same thing in it. So I think one of the things that we need to return to, we need to have the idea that we are a separate people with separate objectives, separate needs, and separate ambitions. And we need to build that while at the same time working with others for the collective good of the ummah. But the collective good of the ummah should not neglect our individual needs as a community and as a people. So this is a dialogue that I would really think that we need to reflect on that. And that lesson, to me, is the primary lesson that we need to learn from previous groups. And I have like 8 things, so I'm gonna stop right here. I'm gonna just make one point. When you don't have this cohesive and unity as a nation, you're never gonna have a preservation of a legacy, right? So you're not gonna have anything to pass on except what and I said it hurts when I have this conversation, what your Islamic slave master passed on to you. That's what you're gonna have, right? And everyone will do that to us. Everyone has had a portion in that to our people. It's true. If they were able, as nations, when we learned in different places, to establish generations of leadership and passing on, why didn't they teach us that while they were teaching us the religion? Because the religion teaches that. Why didn't they teach us that? So, I mean, this is an important thing. If we want legacy, then you need to start with what? Nation building. Nation building, then you'll be able to leave a legacy. And I'm going to start with those 2, and then I get another chance, inshallah. I just want you to think about that, right? Because it's still happening right now, right? I watch us every time we learn, we go be someone else, and then we bring their ideas back to our community. See, y'all give me, that's why I don't like talking sometimes. Sultan Hakim, I don't know who you are, but the Qibla was one way that someone used to enslave us. Trust me. Don't think this issue of Qibla was all about Islam. That's politics and to control black folks. Trust me.
Don't drag me, man.
Yeah, but I gotta check them.
Go on, Rev. Come on, Rev.
I gotta check them. Don't think that's all Islam. Don't. And part of it is your lack of understanding of Islam, why the master is using that issue of the Qibla to divide you from your people. Trust me. And you can take the shot how you like it, but I'm being honest. Part of the problem is every time someone want to control black folks, they'll make some issue that we cling on and we use it to divide from the rest of us. It's a trick. Don't fall for it. And because the same one who taught you that is the same one doing the same thing I'm talking to you about. But you can answer that. And believe me, I'm well aware of that game. And that's my point. So while you're, instead of building a nation, you're worrying about somebody's politics for you. And that, I don't know, maybe you're not a black guy and you're blind to watch what's going on to the same people who's telling you to concentrate all your issue on Northeast and Southeast. Trust me, that's politics. That ain't got too much to do with Islam, even though it got an Islamic face on it. Be careful.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
I'm gone. I told you it makes me angry.
All right. I just wanted to say something real quick to add on to that. Even though, and I think Imam Amin will agree with me here, that even though when we talk about having our separate thing, we're not preaching separatism. We're not preaching separatism. And I think we need to make that clear, because some people, you know, they will take things and they will blow it all out of proportion and take it out of context. We're talking about us as a people who've been marginalized, man, you know, been taken advantage of. People have been cheating us. People been trying to capitalize off us. People taking our culture, taking everything and using it to their advantage, you know, and then not even want to give us credit. I mean, not just religion, just throughout all the, you know, everything in, you know, from education to popular culture, everything, you know, we still in Black History Month, you're still discovering things that African Americans did first, right to this very day, because people deliberately hid it from us because they didn't want to acknowledge us. They didn't want to acknowledge us as our humanity. It's still the same game in religion. You know what I mean? That, like, you know, that somehow people got this thing that we are, you know, like subservient, you know, and like they can subjugate us. And we can't accept that. You know, we can't accept that, you know, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed us as a people with, you know, with humanity, loyalty, you know, dignity, honor. And that's all. And Islam helps to enhance all of that. And we just got to extract it out, you know, and that's why we have to work even harder amongst ourselves to be a collective, because, you know, with the with those different movements and ideologies impacted us, right to this very day, we find it hard for us to unite. You know, even when we have the same kind of doctrine, you know, there's always something, you know, we try to raise money, you know, some be like, what is it for? What are they doing? What's going on there with this and that? With other nations, when they get behind their leadership and they just support right, wrong, or indifferent. And here we are putting our necks on the line, you know, tried and true, and still, you know, we got to fix that, man. You know, we really got to fix that. All right, that's all I had to add. It ain't your turn, Rev. No.
Let me just say one thing.
I got lead tonight. I got the lead voice tonight.
I'm gonna fall back.
Go ahead.
I'll lay back, but I want to just share one point, and I'll just leave it this. Right? And this is because Sultan, I don't want you to get distracted. We ain't gonna talk about the Qibla. That's a whole nother discussion. Because there should be conditions of knowledge before you have a discussion, right? And I can look at your comments and know you're not ready for that discussion. So we're not going to distract from that. But I wanted to say this to you. I would like you to just answer a few questions. For your own research while you planting, I'm going to give you something to plant. I want you to tell me the rules of that issue. You can send it. You don't got to put it out here. In every madhab, so that you can say everyone who don't agree with you is wrong. So I want you to give me in every school the issue of the Qibla and the books and the scholars from your own research that your teachers taught you. When you do that, send that to me, please. The books, don't cut and paste, don't copy, don't photograph. I want you to go look. They should have trained you just for your own research and then come back and tell me your opinion. And I'm going to leave that alone. That's just that. I hope you got, before you answer that, did you hear what I asked you to do? So I'm not attacking you.
I think he's trolling because it don't seem like he paying attention to anything you're saying. He just.
All right, well, I'm just making sure he's clear. I want you to go to every 4 schools. That's it. Go to the main books of each school. Tell me which books you are, which ones you wear, where the page numbers are, research them, and then come back with a conclusive answer to tell me everybody agrees with what you're saying. If that's not the case, then your opinion is not binding on every Muslim, so therefore you might as well stop trying to make something that is a difference of opinion as if it's something that's scholarly consensus, because it's not. And I'll leave it at that. Go ahead.
Okay, Imam Naeem, you up.
I put a question in the chat box. I want to use that to make my next point. Malik Robinson, he said, Imams, would you all agree that the Nation of Islam was the most successful pseudo-Islamic group as far as cleaning up black men and women and having financial and communal power? One thing that I was going to say is I would like for all of us to name out and perhaps put it in the chat. How many Islamic and pseudo-Islamic groups can you name from this country? African American, Islamic and pseudo-Islamic groups can you name? I think already on this program we mentioned the Nation of Islam. In the Nation of Islam, there's a whole bunch of Nation of Islams. It's not just one, right? You had, the Nation of Islam under, the new manifestation under Farrakhan that most of us are familiar with. You had another new one under Silas Muhammad. You had another one under some guy. I just saw a documentary about a year ago. I can't remember, right? But you had several. You even had another Nation of Islam that was under one of Elijah Muhammad's brothers. Like, he didn't agree with Elijah Muhammad. But you had, basically you got Nation of Islam, the Moorish Science Temple, Ansar Allah, the Dar Islam movement.
Naming names.
Huh? Well, I thought you were talking about names of people. I'm talking about I said Islamic and pseudo-Islamic, right? So the Dar Islam movement, then you got the Fuqara, or what they go by now, the Muslim Association of America, something like that. You got Ummah. You got the Islamic Party. What else? What am I missing? There's been a lot of groups that black people been a part of historically. Oh, I forgot the 5%ers. Islamic and pseudo-Islamic. Because a lot of times we talk about these groups, I'm pretty sure a lot of us here, we never heard of the Islamic Party. You had Adinullahi Arabic Islamic Institute, something that I forgot, right? There's been a lot of different groups. because and I want to mention all of these groups just so that you got the Hanafis, meaning not the school, but the group that was ran by Hamas Abdul Khalis, the one who, when he was in the nation, he was known as Ernest 2X McGee, and the nation killed up his whole family, in D.C. Purple people. I don't know what that is. But you had a lot of different groups that black people has been, running and been a part of. Nation of Islam under Solomon. I think, is that the one that, did they do a documentary about him? I can't remember his name. About a year ago I saw it. But in any case,
that might have out of Kansas City?
I think so, somewhere in the Midwest somewhere.
Yeah, Kansas City, yeah.
So there's been a lot of different groups that we've been a part of, and a lot of us from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'at, we don't even know about these groups. Even now, the Daughter Islam movement was a huge movement. A lot of us don't even know about them. Isa Abdul Zahir mentioned them on his platform the other night with Imam Amin. His father was in that, and so we mentioned that the Ansar Allah, but Dr. York's group, he had Abu changed the name a whole bunch of times, I told you that the brother Sultan Hakeem, he ain't paying no attention to you. He still posted comments up there.
I don't worry. That was for somebody else. That wasn't for him.
Oh, okay.
Because let me explain something to you, Imam Naeem. There is a group. There is a group of people, and it's a lot, not just one. They like to dictate on black folks how black folks should think. So I'm one of those black guys that tell you go take a hike, right? And sometimes they use black folks to tell black folks how to think. I just, so that's the message. The subject matter, that ain't even really a subject matter to talk about. But it is, let me work your narrative. And I was telling one of my teachers, I said, it's time for black folks to stop letting people boss them around, right? I don't need you to dictate what I need to do. I'm a grown man, right? We're men and women. We're a nation. We don't need nobody to dictate to us. Brotherly, help us out, show us some knowledge. Yeah, but all that, you're going to, push your agenda on us, man, get lost. You crazy. And we got to be like, I don't care who you are, get lost. Because at the end of the day, when they finish pushing their agenda and got what they want out of us, they're going to leave us right where they found us, right? And we're going to be probably in the worst condition. So we better learn to start telling people, yo, man, get out of here with that. I want to think about something, because all of us been in prison, right? I mean, I want to share something with you. Have you ever seen foreigners run into prison and you saw them in prison? You ever seen them run in the community, bossing people around?
No.
Y'all, we've been there, right?
Yeah.
And they had foreigners in jail. Don't think there was people that weren't in jail from all over the world. Were they ever bossing brothers around, telling them what they should do?
Nope.
How the heck we get in this society to let people boss us around? I mean, think about that.
They became brothers themselves.
La ilaha illallah. It ain't racism. It's like people expect to talk to you like that.
Yeah.
With no respect. Man, get out of here.
Yeah, I don't know how I could forgot that. Somebody mentioned the Qadiani, but they weren't really running nothing. You know what I mean? They I don't think there's no Qadiani group where that broke off and formed their own black Jamaat in America. I'm talking about black run and own Jamaats. Somebody mentioned Imam Obaba. I remember him, Dr. York's brother in New York. I think he had like 9 wives, I think, at one time. Used to have the sisters wearing all green. He was like a little version, a smaller version of, Abu. He wasn't all the way thorough like him, though. So to answer Malik's question, I don't know because all of these groups, these pseudo Islamic groups, you mentioned the pseudo Islamic groups. I was even including some other groups, right? But I mean, they're the most popular. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the other imams would agree with me that they were the most organized and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know.
I would think they set the foundations basically as in all their structure for future groups. Right? I think that because if I look at the Ansars, a lot of what the Ansars had came from the nation, right? With a change of doctrine. But the basic foundational structure was the same basically as the nation with some additions to try to make it more successful. And I think there is something in that for us. Like if we're saying, okay, listen, what did the nation do, or Ansars or other groups? Because I don't know of groups far as that exists today that was as successful in doing it as those two groups, right? And generating money, building communities, doing all of those things. So I think that's something we should learn from with correct doctrine. How can we implement some of those things with a correct understanding of Islam to move forward? I think that's an important aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely probably were the most visible, the most influential, and they had a lot of stuff that appealed to people, especially at the time that they came. We were just coming out of the, still like the Jim Crow era and all that kind of stuff, and the self-esteem for Black people was just at an all-time low. You know what I mean? And they capitalized on that, and then just using using like Christianity concepts to counter the white version of Christianity that was imposed on us. You know what I mean? And they did it. I think they might be the longest running group in America as far as being visible. You know what I mean? And along those best. But because even now they still have some remnants across the country. And if you let them tell it, they're growing still, but they're not really growing. They're actually split, and but they keep playing the games. They keep playing these word games. Dazzling personalities with fiery speech and magical speech. Once more people are hip to it, it starts to die down. And then all these splinter movements and all the pseudo-Islamic movements, they all got similar things, and a lot of them, you got to read about cults. A lot of them had cult characteristics, and that stuff is really deep. There was a brother, I think he's on here today, Abu Isa. He had put a post on his page, and he was talking about the Salafi Wahhabi movement and people who are part of it, and some of the remnants that they have, still stuck on it, from what they learned. And that's the real the power of cults, because they have lasting impact. I mean, people were still writing Charles Manson letters up until he died, and he had like a 2-year run, maybe 3-year run, and he got locked up in 69. 69 or 70, whenever he got locked up. But I mean, up until he died, I think he died a few years ago, people were still supporting him, so that impact of how they catch you with that stuff is it's hard. And then we got to own up, especially people who know better now, how much these movements have impacted us and what kind of what they left on us, man. And some it's been hard to shake. It's been hard to shake for some people. Some people are not going to get it, but we just got to keep pushing, because like Imam Amin was saying, it's kind of like we almost in the same place. After all these years, all of these movements, and we still have people that have the gall to really try to control us. And we still have us still like seeing these people as somebody that, you know, that we have to look for leadership and superiority. Like, yeah, we got so much work to do, man. Lord help us.
Here, I think one point that I think maybe sometimes you can miss sometimes what I'm really saying because of sometimes my passion, right? But here's a point that we know how to build ourselves. We know how to do that. We know how to build communities. We know how to do business. We know how to do that as a people, as a nation. We know how to overcome adversity and hardship. You know, look at the civil rights movement. Look at our stuff through slavery. Black folks are a mighty people. And I'm talking about those who were enslaved here on the shores of America. We are strong people. Now, here's the question to what I always say. If we ever get Islam in its pure form, where we understand it, and we understand difference of opinions, and we know our Islam as a structure, I believe we will take a whole nother position on the world stage, right? Because of our background of struggle and moving forward. But what happens is that is not given to us. We're given portions that doesn't allow us to build Islamically. So we're missing that point. And if we can first gain our independence, then go to the Islamic sources with that independent mind, right? I think we could build something that would be great, right? And I think that's a major thing. Like, where are our scholars? Many people been trained, but where are our scholars that we respect as scholars, that are really scholars that are respected on the world stage? We have to produce that. You follow my point? Like, it can't be a default scholarship. It needs to be a real scholarship, because we're talking about facing the world. Because, you know, so many masjids you'll find where African Americans may be struggling, then somebody comes from somewhere else, oh, he know more than you, so he's the leader. Or your own people start undermining your leadership because of someone else, right? So what we need to develop is a understanding of the deen that is on par with the rest of the world. So that no matter where someone comes from, when they come to our communities, they're confronted with real knowledgeable people who understand the religion in a vast way that protects our people at the same time and doesn't leave them vulnerable for being in a cult or some deviant leader or someone who just want to exploit us. Because we have among our community not ignorant people, people who know their religion well and are able to understand the foundations of the deen, the details of the deen, spirituality of the deen, and at the same time understand how to move our people forward. So I think we need to look at these groups and extract that and then get the Islamic part of it.
I think, I don't know, what do y'all think about this? I think that our people in general have, you know how, like, you know, some people have some sicknesses and they say, you know, that this person is predisposed to this type of sickness. Like sometimes they say that about alcoholism or something like that. I think that we're predisposed to always putting other people above us because we have a lot of self-hatred in us. And so I think most of us, we can be operating among ourselves, we'll be cool. Then somebody else come, right? And automatically their ice is colder, they're better, and we just do that. And sometimes you have the opposite extreme, like, I don't care if he has anything good that we can benefit from. We ain't trying to hear him. So I think that we have, we had that problem amongst us. We don't, because of our self-hatred, that we don't know how to react to other people. We don't know how to interact with them. We don't know where to draw the line at. And I'm saying is thinking about, the impact that when foreign elements or other people were introduced to different movements, how the people in the movement reacted. They either were just completely, they didn't want to hear anything, just completely against it, or, this is our savior. It's one or the other, Well, what do y'all think about that?
Yeah, I think that there's an element of truth to that. And I'm just trying to think about how do we overcome it, because you still see it these days. Well, now I know you told me not to name names, Imam, but I got to mention this one just for the story. And now I'm thinking about it. We talking about this topic. When I was with the
back to Europe, but when I name somebody else, it's a problem.
Yeah, it's a problem, man. You are but I remember one time. This was years ago. When I was with the Salafis, and we was in Imam Abu Muslim's Masjid, and they were having a meeting with all of the imams, and they were trying to come up with somebody who was supposed to be the Amir of the Salafis in North America. That was the topic, right? And I was at that meeting, and so I remember they were throwing out some names, and then in the meeting, it was at his masjid, and when it was like they started having like a difference of opinion, it was like about 10 brothers that got behind Imam Abu Muslim and stood behind him, and they was like this is who we support, because they were throwing out some names like some foreign brothers, some other people, but then they all got up, man, and then it was like, people were looking at him like, these people like, they used to call them Hizbis. But now I'm looking at it, the message they was trying to send was like, we're going to be in control of our affairs. You know what I mean? We're not going to have nobody be a savior over us. We're not going to follow that. So it's like, to your point, Imam Naeem, it's like either we just not going to hear what nobody says, or a person, we take them as like they're going to be some type of savior for us. And we definitely got to find some middle ground, and really put trust in leadership that we know that's tried and true, and get behind them, man. Get behind them, there's another question if you don't have anything else to comment on, Imam.
Can I share an analogy? What I would like us to start thinking of our Islam like? I told you.
Make it quick. Make it quick, man.
Let's look at basketball, for instance, right? All of us as Black people, right? We claim basketball for ourselves, right? A sport like basketball, that's like our sport. And it is almost that we would consider in an insult for someone to come in the hood and come on the court and show us up. We had a certain we're gonna ball, we're gonna rock, and it's people from other ethnicity that can play basketball, but you won't find no Black guy settling for that, even all the way up to the NBA, right? What analogy I'm saying? That's a certain dignity, right? That's the point. Because you're a human, he's a human. He could possibly play sports better than you, right? But even in boxing, it was a time when that was in boxing too, right? Like the brothers, man, we own this. That concept, that confidence, we got to get in Deen. That same confidence. If you have that confidence in your religious understanding, right, where you're not intimidated by anyone, that will never happen, right? If someone comes and they say, they come and you don't feel like you got an inferior product, In fact, you feel like you great at this. That type of feeling is what we need to develop in our communities, right? You're not going to let it happen. Or for another way, when you and around your hood, no one comes on your block and do anything without working with you, right? They don't just come on your block and take over. That same mentality, for the sake of Allah, you got to have. Not for dunya, like, you know, this is your house. Run your house, right? And the deen is how you run your house. But if you feel inferior in that, someone always going to come put their foot on your table, right? And I think that's the thing that we got to develop. It's called swag. Okay, you got to have some swag. Islamic swag.
All right, you got anything, Imam Naeem, before we go to the next question?
Nah, you can go to the next question.
Okay, the next question is by Sister Isla. It says, Imams, do you think any of the pseudo-Islamic movements have moved to following Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah? Imam Naeem.
I don't think so. I think some of them have moved to make it appear that they're moving towards Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, but actually moving towards it, nah.
Now, I think with some of these pseudo-Islamic movements, you know, they have to give us some of their power and some of their influence, because when you follow Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, you got to fall in line. You know, it don't matter what status you had. You know, when you come into Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and especially if you start, and like many of us, we came from backgrounds, we was leaders, we was organizers, we ran blocks, we did all types of stuff, we were supervisors, and then you got to come in and you learn your Islamic knowledge. You got to learn with the kids sometimes. You know what I mean? So you got to fall in place. For some of these people, they're taking remnants of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, but they're not going to fall in place because it's going to lose power. And I used to always say this, like, so for instance, somebody like Minister Louis Farrakhan, if he was to just drop all of that stuff and be like, listen, we're Sunni Islam. You got to pray 5 times a day. You got to drop these beliefs. Yeah, this was Elijah Muhammad's legacy, but no more. Like, how much progress that would make for people. And then you look at Imam Waruddin Muhammad rahimahullah, like how he did that. You know, he took the people to Sunni Islam, man. Like that was major, because he had the opportunity to either continue his father's legacy or, you know, break off like splinter groups do. They form another splinter group. That's one of the traits of them. And, you know, he had the opportunity to do that, but he had the goal to bring people to, you know, Orthodox Islam, you know, and that was major. But some of these groups, they're going to take pieces and bits, you know, to try to keep their thing going, but you know, they're not coming to it, you know.
And if I look at Imam Waruddin Muhammad rahimahullah, he's an example of what needs to be done, right? I mean, if I look at his vision, he tried to do exactly what we're discussing. He came from the nation with what he had at his disposal, what he knew. He kept dignity among the people. He moved them to what he understood to be, you know, more orthodox or Sunni Islam. And as he developed, he sent children over to Syria to study, to go to the next level. And I think if he would have lived, we would have seen a lot more of success coming from his direction. But, you know, mashallah who can. He didn't live on. And those who came after him, they're still struggling to take it to that next level, right? So another resurrection is needed, and he put that in place. But the struggle with a lot of the imams who went through that, they're still struggling to maintain the community, which is important, yet still develop them to a more complete understanding of our Islamic tradition. So I think if we study his effort, I think he was the closest one that I seen that came from a pseudo Islamic movement to bring the people towards Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah in a full manner. May Allah reward him for his efforts.
I mean, there was something that somebody mentioned just real quick with Imam Wardi Muhammad. I remember when, you know, when I first became Muslim and I came to the, like when I first got out of jail and I went to the Wardi Muhammad community, and, you know, it had a different feel for me, you know, and then I used to hear stuff about, you know, that they were deviants and this kind of stuff. And then, you know, the whole talk about, because somebody just mentioned in the comments about Imam Wardi Muhammad inventing a fifth madhab, you know, and that, so, you know, like, what do you mean a fifth madhab? You know, madhab's a bid'ah anyway, so how he's going to do it, you know, at that time. But now I'm looking at it like he really, you know, was about, you know, fiqh that was concerning our people, because it's something that's exclusive and unique in America. You know, our culture, man, it's like no other. We're like a, you know, and not to be bragging, but we're like a people with our experiences and our circumstances like no other in the world, man, you know, and it takes a special approach. So he was like way ahead of the curve, man. May Allah have mercy on him. But that was, I wanted to throw that in there. But we got another question. If you brothers don't have anything else.
I'm gonna address something but after the question, I'll address it. It was something that was in the comments. It's related to what we're talking about, Imam Wardi Muhammad and his community.
Okay. The next question is Brother Abu Isa. He says, can the Imams expound on the concept of self-hate?
Imam Naeem?
I'm going to limit my comments on this because that's actually what my Jumu'ah Khutbah is going to be about. I actually think self-hate, you know, actually, you know, was taught to us is actually it's almost like the flip side of kibra or ujub, you know, pride or conceit, arrogance or conceit. I actually believe that self-hate is a form of ingratitude. You are ungrateful for how Allah created you, what Allah gave you, and you wish that, you know, you hadn't been created the way Allah created you, and that you wanted to be something else. A lot of us, like even some famous people, have stated publicly that when they were like Oprah, she said when she was young growing up, she wished that she was white, that she was born white. You know, that's not natural. That's your environment and your experiences, you know, make you think and feel like that. And it hits a lot of, you know, our sisters more than it hits a lot of, I believe it hits a lot of our sisters harder than it hits brothers. Like a lot of sisters believe, you know, especially when they're young, before they, you know, get any type of self-consciousness, they feel like, man, why did I have to be born black? I wish I was born white. And, you know, straight hair, you know, is good hair, and kinky hair is other, you know, so many ways that this self-hate is manifested. And so we see it, you know, it's not only with our physical, you know, attributes, it also, you know, I mean, how many of our so-called black celebrities, you know, were getting, you know, their noses, you know, skinny, you know, their skin bleached, and even in Africa right now, that's a fitna that the people out there deal with, skin bleaching cream. You know, they want to look white. You go on YouTube, you see a light-skinned sister here, but then her neck, she's dark-skinned, her arms, she's dark-skinned and everything like that. And some of them are a little slicker. They starting to put the skin bleaching cream on the other parts of the body that's exposed, not just the face. Self-hate, you know, they dealing with their self-hate is the result of the same type of trauma from the same enemy that causes us to self-hate. And I think we have to really deal with this when we talking about subject like this, because that's really the elephant in the room. We hate ourselves, and we need to deal with that. We need to deal with that self-hate, in an Islamic context. What is that? You are not grateful for the way that Allah created you. You're not thankful for that. And so, so I'm about to start my cookbook. Let me stop. Let me shut up.
I think on the self-hate thing, I think really that is necessary to physically or mentally or spiritually enslave a people. You first got to take away their esteem and their self-dignity and honor. Once you take that away, then you're able to, to exploit them. And I think that's what happens. And so some of the ways that we got the oppressor off our neck before, we got to be willing to do that, And that's why you had those songs, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, right? That was to change the mindset, right? Many of us, and let's be honest, soon as someone comes and speaks Arabic, a little bit more Arabic than you, or looks like they know some Arabic, we automatically get intimidated. Like, I remember this guy came in the masjid. Can I share this story? It'll crack you up. I think I shared it before. People like stories, man, I'm telling you. You'll probably get about 10 more people if you let me tell the story. Right? That's $100, bro. Right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right.
Matter of fact, $5 per person to hear the story. Cash out right now.
All right, listen, I got a good story for y'all to give. This is my dalil on what I'm talking about. Right? The concept is if a person is from another culture or he speaks Arabic, then all of a sudden he's better than us. Right? That's our baseline. So we in the masjid one time, and the guy comes in, these young people, I forget their ethnicities, but they come in the masjid. They said, we got the mufti with us, and he's a hadith scholar and blah, 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 blah. And like, in other words, what they were saying is, okay, y'all sit down and we're going to show you how it is. He's leading. I never forget this. So we walking in, and they walked in like strutting, had some serious pride, right? So the guy says, yeah, I'm a hadith expert. I said, hadith expert, for real? For real? And I said to him, I said, can you tell me the first hadith that was the party that came in narration? And he looked. He didn't expect such a question. I said, tell me the first hadith with his Senate to al-Bukhari. He was frozen. I said, I thought you was a hadith expert. He said, oh, we didn't learn that. But the way he came in was what? I deserve to be in charge. But had we not had some knowledge and dignity in what we learned, he would have come in and just take over, right? And people were prepared to let him do it, right? They were prepared to let him. He was dressed the part, had his turban, long garb, beard down to his kneecaps, right? He was ready to be in charge. And one basic question for someone who studies hadith and supposed to be an expert, that's something you should have known, but I had no clue. And my point was that for us, it ain't always like what people think. And we got to have some confidence in ourselves. But that self-hate is when we automatically feel inferior. So what we got to do is reverse that with what? Self-dignity and self-worth, and build that up. So I think that that's a major issue, and that happens a lot. I'm quite sure you can find similar examples in each of your individual communities. Am I right or wrong? How many times people come in, Imam, Faheem, and act like you should sit in the back and let me take this?
A lot.
And how many times have you seen in different places where the people let them do it? That's self-hate. When we don't have no self-esteem or pride, and when I say pride, not arrogance, looking down on others. No, some sense of honor for yourself. You know, the believer doesn't belittle himself, and we need to establish that.
Yeah, I got a quick story. I remember with the Jamaat Tabligh came to our Masjid, right? So I let him.
You said no name and name.
I said name groups. We talking groups. I didn't name an individual. So one of them, right? He came in, so he was in the wudu area. He was like, yeah, you know, he was measuring it up, and he was like, yeah, because we could put a refrigerator right here. And I'm like, hold up, put a refrigerator where? They're not going right there. What are you talking about? Like he was like staking out the place for when they come. Like, nah, it ain't that type of party, man. You know. But when talking about self-hate, I mean, you know, I was hurt when I heard that the Willie Lynch letter was it's not real. I heard, you know, you guys heard this? There's but man, that thing is so deep, man. You know, if you read it, you know, I'm gonna share it in the comments section for people who don't know what it is about making of a slave, and how we should really be aware and never let this fire die down about what they've done to us as black people in this country, and how they, you know, just put these seeds of self-hate and making us feel inferior and subjugating us, and all of the horrors and the evils of shadow slavery. It wasn't just them having it in bondage and making us work. I mean, they psychologically did a number on us, man, breaking up homes, you know, buck breaking, traveling passes, you know, using legislation to, you know, to prove that we weren't even worthy of, you know, of regular human stuff, using science to try to prove that we didn't even have the mental capacity to make our own decisions, and using the whole culture right up until this very day to try to put us as animals, man. And we can't never let that go. And then the self-hatred that we have, we so quickly projected on someone else that looks just like us. It's quickly, you know, we first to tell somebody, you know, man, that nigga, this and that, he think he all that, you know, this, that, and the other, you know. And I can't even tell you, you know, I mean, one of the concepts in the Willie Lynch letter is about, you know, pitting the dark skin against light skinned people. You know what I mean? And now, I mean, we could joke about it, but I can't even tell you, man, people used to really, you know what I mean, make fun of me, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't really black. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, man, listen, I ate cheese out the cart just like you did, man. The blocks of cheese. I'm poor, you know what I'm saying? But just the self-hate that's been projected on us, and how we just divided by class, you know, we got uppity people move away, then they look down on people who are still poor, and like, you know, they just don't want nothing out of life, and how they just perpetuated all of this self-hate on us, and we continue to do it in some instances, you know what I'm saying? And it's heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking that in 2021, we'll still have some elements of this floating around some type of way. You know what I mean? And we really got to do a thing to really lift up our pride, both black pride and Islamic pride. And don't let nobody tell us no different. You know, I'm a servant of Allah who smiled with Allah first, but I'm a black man in America, and I'm in the hood, and I'm angry, and I'm ready to scrap, but I love you too. The shirt off my back. But don't F with me. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm going to jack you up. Or I'm going to get somebody to jack you up. Don't come in my territory with the nonsense. You know what I'm saying? And this is I'm going to stop right there.
I love us. When we be us, we are hilarious people, right? Can you read that question? This is Black family. I love y'all. Subhanallah. You on mute.
He said, it says, the Prophet ﷺ, what did the Prophet ﷺ mean when he said that there will be over 73 sects of Al-Islam? And how does that play when trying to tie African Americans together under one banner of Al-Islam? And please, Imam Amin, don't tell me go and read 1,000 different books to bring proof. Oh, yeah, we are special.
That's being black right there.
We're very musical people. Ah, man. Go ahead, Imam Naeem.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother Fareed. I'm going to give you a quick, succinct answer. And if anywhere I fall short, I'm sure Imam Amin and Imam Faheem will clean up what I left. A sect. We have to define what a sect is, or a firqa. And a lot of people erroneously think that a sect is like, for example, different tariqas or different madhahibs and fiqh or Ashari Maturidi. No, all of that is under Ahl Sunnah. A different sect in layman's language is basically a group that claims to be Muslim, but they have a belief, an aspect of their creed that differs from, Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat. So that would make them a different sect. And as Imam Amin, he mentioned them a few times today on the post-Fajr reflection. There's even books written listing some of these sects, like the one by Khatib al-Baghdadi, listing these different things. And so I think a lot of us don't understand what a sect is first, right? So that's, in layman's terms, what a sect is. And so I'll leave that right there, and I'll leave the rest for Imam Amin.
Before you go, Imam Amin, we are already under the banner of Al-Islam. I mean, we're just talking about us as a people and what we've been exposed to, and the conditioning and the subjugation and the game and the bamboozlement that's been played on us. We got to retake our natural place in the society, man, where people have just undermined us, disregarded us, marginalized us, left us for dead, actively worked against us as a people. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent us Islam, and sent us true Islam, to wake us up out of our slumber. It's time to activate that for real. And we start with our own. Everybody starts with their own. We the only people that even discussed, starting somewhere else and leaving our own. I mean, even that's part of the conditioning. Somebody told us that success in this country was leaving where we were at, where we were able to make it work with what they gave us. They gave us lemons. They gave us lemon rinds. And we made lemonade out of it, man. We made everything work. We're so resilient. We're so resourceful. We're so creative. And we got to keep that. Somebody came and told us that in Islam, we're not supposed to do this as black people. Nah, that's not, we're not a people who really need to re-dignify ourselves and reclaim our honor, man. So, and yeah, go read 1,000 books. Inshallah.
Hey, Brother Fareed, right? You see, you crack me up. I like that, right? But you know what? That's what we do as a people. I love it, right? We got to stop be us. Go ahead, it's cool, right? So I won't ask you to go read 1,000 books, but I will ask you to read one book, right? And Imam Faheem, didn't you put the link for this before? Al-Farqu Bayna Firaq? The English link, was that you that did that?
Yeah, I did.
Could you find that link and share it with the brother Fareed? Right?
Okay.
So this book, Fareed, it is one of the most...
That's been translated?
Yeah, Imam Faheem, no, he got all the good stuff.
Yeah, put that link up there.
Okay.
Right? This book is called Al-Farqu Bayn al-Firaq, right? It's the differences or the distinction between the sects. So this whole book, it was written in the 5th century Hijrah by one of a great scholars. His name was Abu Mansur al-Baghdadi, famous scholar who lived in the early 5th century in Iraq, in Baghdad, one of the great Imams of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And he mentions the groups. So from this book and similar books like it, it is one of the most famous, you're going to get a picture of how the scholars of Islam in the earliest days understood sects and what were their types. Now, these sects that have, the scholars always took sects, they took certain ideas from the early days of Islam and they put them in groups. Like these people hold this type of belief, these people have these types of belief, and then they put them under those groups to get this 73 type sects. So when you talk about sects, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah is accounted among those 73, but they are Al-Firqat al-Najiyah. They are the saved group. Why am I mentioning that? What we're not calling, what I would never call to, is a black movement that's outside of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Absolutely not, right? So once we define, and our books are available, and here, I know sometimes you get, when I be mentioning books, I do it intentionally. Why? Because that's the way people trick us, because we don't read, we don't study, we don't have enough knowledge, so people can tell us anything. So why I push this book, here's the book, the scholar said this in this book, and that book, and then chains of narration, why I mention that? So that we'll know that what we getting, is it something that reached us from the Prophet ﷺ, from the early Muslims, from generations, or is this some new stuff somebody's coming up with, right? So even why I'm asked, when I mention that, it's just a habit that we need to have among our people, so no one can tell us anything. So when a guy comes and trying to push some idea down our throat, we know where it came from. We know what was it mentioned, what did the scholars say about it, from how was it related, what book, so that you trying to tell me I got to do this, I should have some kind of resources to do it. So one of the most important things that we got to do as black people, we got to read. Right? That's why you notice, I'm always books, for that reason. It was an old saying, you want to hide something from black people, what you do? Put it in a book. So we need that. So when we're saying that movement of black people is movement of a nation of people, but our practice is Ahl Sunnah. So that's why I told you, in Aqidah, we are Ash'ari, Maturidi. In fiqh, we are Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, Hanbali. And we follow At-Turuq al-Sufiyya and the spiritual paths of Tasawwuf, right? That's Ahl Sunnah. That's always been Ahl Sunnah since the time of the formulation of Madhahib in the 2nd and 3rd century of Hijrah. That's well known. So we're not saying call outside of that, but within that, and that's a broad spectrum, is room in that for African Americans to learn their deen, to practice their deen, and within that big, wide spectrum of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, find out what works for us as a people. And knowing it well enough so that someone can't feed us only one idea. It might not work for us. So you come telling us only from, for instance, only the Shafi'i school, and I'm Shafi'i, right? But there may be situations that the Shafi'i school don't work for us. So we might need to know what's in the Maliki school, what's in the Hanafi school, what's in the Hanbali school, and we need our own scholars who understand our situation, how to properly apply that, right? So when I say that, we're still under the banner of Ahl Sunnah, and I'm very strict about that, because following outside of Ahl Sunnah, like Wahhabi or Salafi or all these different pseudo-Islamic groups have also led to our destruction. And we've never had a firm practice of Ahl Sunnah with classical knowledge, with chains of narration, and that we became learned scholars in that. That has never happened in our history, in our sojourn here in America. And if someone knows about it, I've been diligently looking for it. Please inform me of that community of African Americans who have scholars among them, who learned the books of the Madhahib and Aqidah and Tasawwuf and got all that together so I can join them. Please point them out to me, because I've been looking for them. And that's what we need to build. African American communities that are Ahl Sunnah and have their own leadership under the banner of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and have a movement to empower Black people. And there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, every country does that. Go to every country, they got that movement I'm talking about. It just ain't, it only entail Black folks. But the Syrians got it, the Lebanese got it, the Saudis got it, the Egyptians got it, the Africans, Senegal, Nigeria, they all got it except us.
You got something, Imam Naeem?
I was going to say, I think one of the things I learned from these different historical Black Muslim, pseudo-Islamic and Muslim movements is that we go to extremes with regards to our leadership. We either worship them or we hate on them. I think you can see that in all of the groups, like including like the Late Nation of Islam, right? You know, even with the leaders under the top leader, like even Malcolm X, you know, so I like the reason why the government was able to do what they did, because he had plenty of people hating on him. I was even watching a discussion about another group, and they were talking about, the different perspectives in their history in the group. I'm trying to be vague. I don't want to name the group, right? And so they were talking, right? And then one of the people who was in the group was like, yeah, when the leader had these classes, and before you had, in order to get to one class, you had to first do the basic class first. And they wouldn't let you get to the secondary class until you finish the basic class, right? And so when it came time for certain moves to be made, those people who never was in those secondary classes didn't understand the moves that was made. And so the person was saying, and I'm listening to it, I'm like, SubhanAllah, do you hear what you're saying? And so the person said was like, what the person was like, and then he was like, Imam, so arrogant, walking around with security like he's somebody special. I'm like, SubhanAllah, right? I'm like, do you hear what you said? Like, and he was all animated about it too. I'm like, man, the hate still survived. It's been over 40 years. You still got that hate in you, right? And so one thing that I realized that made me think after watching that, I was like, SubhanAllah, in all of these groups, the Islamic ones, the pseudo-Islamic ones, you always got a group of people that feel entitled, but they don't feel like they need to learn the basics of what the group is about. They don't want to learn the basics, because like we talking about learning the basics and learning our Fard Ain and learning our Aqidah. One thing I realized is there's some people, they refuse to learn. They're not going to want to learn. They're extremely lazy. Like, I don't want to hear all that. Just tell me what to do. They're led by their emotions. So long as, Imam Amin make me feel good, I'm there with him. As long as Imam Naeem make me feel good, I'm there with him. Imam Faheem, yeah, I feel good. Yeah, I don't understand nothing they saying, but long it feels good. And as soon as we say something wrong, I don't like that nigga, right? I hate him. Who he think he is, man? Like, driving that car, married to them sisters, right? And people literally talk like that. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought you loved him. What happened? Nah, I don't agree with him. Why you don't agree? I don't know why I don't agree. I don't study. I just don't agree. Right? That's how we are, right? I was trying to be like real vague about the thing that made me think about this, the discussion that I saw. I'm like, subhanAllah, it's that mentality that broke up a whole lot of movements. You got a bunch of everybody's not going to be a scholar, but you got people that's ignorant, don't even know what the group is about, don't even know just the basic stuff. And they just riding with who they feel loyal against. And these people, they don't have no problem shedding the blood of other Muslims because they don't even understand that blood ain't even sacred. I'm just riding with him. You know, I just wanted to mention that.
I got something real quick, Imam. I mean, you don't mind. You on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, the other thing, man, I gotta mention this. Might be off a little off topic, but we gotta stay committed in our support. You know, alhamdulillah, you know, we raised some money, but tonight we raised $160. Like, we gotta stay consistent, man. You know, in what Imam Naeem was saying, do we understand how fortunate we are to be people who give and to have the proper understanding of Islam? You look at all those former movements, like Imam Naeem was saying, they didn't even want to hear all that stuff. They didn't even care about that doctrine. They didn't even know it, but they believed in the leadership that they followed. Whether it was extreme or not, they gave their money, they gave their time, they gave their energy. You know, you didn't have to twist their arm to do it. Come on, man. We, you know, over 60 people watching this. If that's $10 a piece, that's $600 easily. When we understand what we give our money for.
Right now, as you're talking, there's 95 people actively watching, and it's been like that the whole time.
95 people at $10, that's an easy $900 to help us get to our goal. One thing that we understand now as people of Sunni Muslims, we give our money that is going on the scale, regardless of what you might think, but we already proven who we are. Ain't nobody preaching prosperity. Ain't nobody, we ain't no Daddy Graces here, no Father Divines, none of that nonsense, man. And those people, even today in the church, you'll find Christians joking all the time about tithes and giving money, about the preachers living lavish. Those preachers still ain't starving. They still give it. They'll make fun of them, but they still get their tithes. وَمَا تُنْفِقُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يُوَفَّى إِلَيْكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تُظْلَمُونَ. What part we don't understand? And whatever you give of good, you will be repaid in full, and you will not be wrong. This is part of our mission. $10,000 is not a lot of money. And that's the other part of the self-hate. When it comes to money and ideas and energies, we holding on to our stuff. We individualize everything. Man, give everything we got for what we believe in, man. And we believe in it like we say. You know what I mean? If you support the imams like you say, what's $10? Let me give 1 10 and 10 for another person. Let me give $50 to cover 5 people. Let me give $100. Some of us, it ain't gonna hurt us. Some of us, it ain't gonna hurt us at all. We're gonna get that right back in this life, regardless of the scale. You know what I mean? We're gonna get that right back. Like, we gotta stop doing that, man. You know, because this is America, Jack. It's gonna take dough. $10,000 ain't no money. Let's try to build for something, man, because if you consistently watching, consistently following us, consistently give your money. Let's not slack off. We can do something really big. It's going to take time. It's going to take consistency, man. You know, we got a thing with all of the movements that we talked about and discussed. Probably all of us have been through some kind of movement. You know, mostly all of us been through some kind of movement. And here we are talking about traditional Islam with people that we know, that we can contact, that look like us, that act like us, and we can relate to them. And we still won't get no money, man. Like, come on. If we got $10,000, we know this from the hood. If you got 1 brick, you get 2. You got 1 brick, you got 2. We got 10, we can get 20. If we get 20, we can get 40. If we got 40, we can get 80. Because we would do that for ourselves. Some of us got plans like that. Why not a little break off to make it easier for all of us to do something, man? Like, if you haven't given a little $10, give $10. Give $5. Make sure you have a plan to give 5 or 10 or 20 every week. And we reach the goal, inshallah. All right, I'm done, Imam.
So it was a legitimate question, right? And you asked, what is the goal and what are you building? I missed it. And that's a good question. And that's a legitimate question because people, and that's why, I mean, it's pandemic, so I can't really, we can't move as much as we want. But right now you're talking about 3 communities, right? So you got Imam Naeem and Masjid in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh Pittsburgh, which one is it? Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You got Imam Faheem at the Quba school in Camden, New Jersey, and you got me at Masjid Muhammad in Atlantic City. I want to know an average masjid, right? Let's talk. Give me a couple minutes of your time, and I want y'all know me. I want to engage you. How much do you think that it takes monthly to run a masjid? I want to ask that question. That's a question, y'all. Feed me back. The average masjid, how much do you think it costs to run it a month? Roughly, just your wildest imagination. Give me some numbers. 2,200. Okay, that's one thought. 5 to 10,000. That's another thought. 4,000.
I think Masjid Mukmin's treasurer is on here. Yeah, she just commented. Can you give us a roundabout number? I stopped keeping track of that.
No, I'm serious. Just look at these numbers. So how much do you honestly, we're going to have real talks here, right? So everyone would agree, I'm looking at all these numbers, we would say it's safe to say to run a masjid from all these numbers, $4,000 a month is safe, right? To say run a masjid, 4,000 from all the numbers you mentioned, right? Now with that 4,000, is that just to take care of the masjid or for the community to grow? That's the next question. So we're saying roughly 4,000 between all the numbers we mentioned, right? Is that enough to just run the masjid or to develop programs and activities and pay for professional skill sets that is needed in the community? Or is that money just to take care of the masjid? Which one? All right. Now I'm going to ask you a question. We're going to speak real. What do you think in the Black community, and I've done this research, is the average amount of money they take in at Jumu'ah every week? What do you think is a roughly average around the country? Because this is Black communities we're talking about. What's the average amount of money the average African-American community takes in a week from Jumu'ah donations? Because people ain't coming to the masjid like that. So it's usually Jumu'ah when they make their money. So what do you think is the average? A week for Jumu'ah donations. We have a real talk. 300 to 1,000.
Man, I wish I see 1,000 in my Sadaqah box for Juba.
Less than five. Okay. So let's give it 750, right? A week.
Once again, our treasurer, she just said sometimes it don't reach 100.
All right, but let's just we're talking around the country. We're not talking about Pittsburgh where people stingy, right? We're talking about around the country. 750. So 750 times 4 is how much? 3,000, right? How much did we say the average is needed to take care of the masjid without just overhead? 4,000. So that means average masjid in this country, in the African American community, is $1,000 short every month, right? Think about that. That's the average masjid. It's $1,000 short. So therefore, at that rate, are you going to have a sustainable community? Let's convert that if that was your house. If you were $1,000 short every month in your bills, what would be your condition in your own home? Think about that. In your own home, if you were $1,000 a month short every month,
you be living from shut-off notice to shut-off notice. Pay the electric bill right before it's about to cut off to pay your gas bill, and then flip it around next month.
So if we're all together, right, and we're thinking, for us, we ain't talking about imams, we ain't talking about pain. We said we're just talking about survival mode right now. So that means every week you expect that the imams you listen to are suffering combined a $3,000 deficit every month. When you put the communities together, working together. So collectively, we are behind at least $3,000 a month. So for you, if you count it, we average, let's say 75 people, let's say 80 people a week. 80 people a week here. If everyone gave $10, what Imam Faheem has mentioned, how much would that be? Let's talk, really having real talk. That would be $800 a week, right? At $800 a week times 4, that's $3,200. Just to get out of debt for just the survival of the masjid, we would need everyone to give $10 just the masjid without doing nothing else. And then we would have an extra $200. So to get to 10,000 at that rate, with $200 we save a month, how long would it take us to reach the 10,000 goal? How many years? I want you to, so when people ask this question, that's like, are you listening to what's going on? Are you reflecting and thinking about your situation? So that's $2,400 a year. It would take you 4 years to 4.5 years just to reach your goal, Imam Faheem. And keep the masjid stable and hoping that the imam can work his job, do whatever he does, and to do the services because he's not getting paid. We ain't even talk about paying. That's a condition that we must change, right? Now, if I go to every other community among our other brothers in Islam, our other communities, are they in the same situation? That's a question. Are they in the same situation? Absolutely not. So therefore, there is a disparity here, right? There's a problem. And obviously, no one else is going to fix that problem but us. So when you said, you said that what we need to do, yeah, that's all you got to do is think about it. And you see the masjid is there every week, so you know ain't nobody really stealing because it ain't nothing to steal. Right? It's obvious. If you just do the math, there's nothing to steal. Right? And I agree. I agree. So when you look at what's the goal, let's make one goal to make our community sustainable so that we can continue to do work. If that was the only goal we started with, which is not, because we want to go teach, we want to learn, we want to pay for teachers, we want to have salaries so that our imams can focus on our condition, learn what needs to be learned. That's another level. And still do things to build communities who are not in the same condition, to build at least that we're on a level playing field. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. And trust me, putting out transparency ain't the issue. You can do the math yourself. Transparency is an encouragement a lot of times, unfortunate for us not to give. You know what we'll say? Oh, they all right. I don't need to give. No, you need to have a serious commitment to developing your communities, right? You have to have a serious commitment for that. And it ain't a transparency issue, because all you got to do is think about the situation and watch. You have a house. All of us got houses. We live, we got family. We know exactly what goes on to maintain a house and a family and to develop. We save for vacations. We do all that. So we spend more money on our houses than we talking about the masjid collectively. My own bills in my house is more than we talking about in the masjid collectively, just with my family, right? So come on, don't tell me we're worrying about where the money's going. That's not it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, bro.
Imam, I got a class I got to cut out, man. I got this new class I'm in that starts at 9 o'clock. So you on mute.
We can end, inshallah. Y'all just close out with dua, and inshallah we'll be all right. We keep going. I appreciate the time and the effort.
Okay, man, Naeem.
Well, I gotta close out.
Because I opened up.
I like your duas better.
No, man.
Alhamdulillah. We pray that we mention some things to get all of us to think and to learn from our history, and to implement some of these things that we mentioned. A lot of things we didn't mention, but some of the things that we mentioned, into our minds, so we can think about it and use it to improve our situation and not repeat some of the mistakes that were made in the past. May Allah bless all of you. May Allah protect all of you. May Allah keep you all safe. May Allah continue to keep us guided on Siratal Mustaqim. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم أنت حسنا ومنك حسنا أنت باركت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Al-Fatiha. Thank y'all for your support and participation. Inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow at the Post-Fajr Reflections and our other programs. Please follow Imam Naeem and Imam Faheem on their respective sites at Masjid Mu'min and Quba School, and support our brothers in their efforts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you all successful in this world and the hereafter. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.